Alright, let me see if I can get this working. Alrighty. Hello, everybody. I have not done one of these lives in maybe a year, maybe 2 years. So hopefully all goes well. So what I've got is I've got a 1968 Aurora Lost in Space B9 kit. Now, I found this a week or so ago in one of my storage boxes while digging for another model. To be honest, I don't remember building this, but it has all of the signs that I did. I may have built this for my dad back in the, had to be, just looking at the way things are painted and what I was doing back then. I think it had to be early 80s, like 82 maybe. And I think it was a repaint. I think this was my dad's kit, and he had built it, and it had fallen apart and broken, and I redid it. That's my recollection. So I'm looking at it. So it's in pieces. There's a lot of pieces here, but they're all here. So this is the main body, and he's got one arm, so he's missing the dome, which I have here, which oddly enough is in really good shape. So that just needs to be glued back on. One of the little terrain pieces has broken loose, and but I've got his other arm pieces here, and I've got a couple of claws. One's like wide open, and you can see the little holes where I believe the original kit had, like, he was shooting lightning out of his hands. And what else is here? That's it. So it's the base and his tracks and his lower torso legs are here. Just looking at the body here, I can see where the paint has sort of soiled, or not soiled, but aged, and I think that was sort of, I think I had done some kind of a dull coat on this. I don't, like I said, I honestly don't remember building this. But anyway, so I think I'm going to put it back together, and my first thought was to redo it completely, but I've sort of been in this mindset of keeping things the way I did them originally. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I did sort of toy with the idea of doing a complete rehab of this. A few years ago, I did this doodle a day, and I did a doodle of the robot, sort of smoking and kind of hunched over. And I was thinking of taking this one and chopping it all up and doing that and adding that. So maybe I'll do this as a maybe like a future project with another B9. Maybe I'll get one of the toys that I have no sentimental value or attachment to. So for now, I'm just going to put this back together now. Now his body has come loose. I may do just a little, like a very subtle cleaning on this, just to get some of the dust off. Oddly enough, there's not a lot of dust on it. It's just been sealed up in a plastic bag for, God, maybe 30 years or so. So there's not a lot of dust on this. My memory tells me that, like I said, I think this was my dad's kit. that he had originally built back in the 60s when it was released. And I did a refurbished and a repaint in the early 80s of it. But the looks like the silver that I had used for the body repaint is kind of oxidized over time. I don't know if it was just the kind of paint that I used. If I remember, this kit had the original plastics. There was no, my dad didn't really paint or color it. I can see, like right in here, I can see some of the original gray silver plastic. But I think, like I said, I'm going to leave this as is. And I'm really surprised that there's not a lot of dust on it. Like, the dome is completely clear. Normally these things yellow as the years go on. So let's go ahead and do a little wipe off on this. Maybe the only thing I'll do paint-wise is maybe I'll do some work on the base, because it's like this dark brown, this really dark brown, and maybe I'll just put some tan or something on it. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's put his arm back on. Let's put the arm back together. So I've got some super glue here. So I'll do a little bit of glue. If I can get the glue working. I just popped this out just a little bit ago, so I know it's working. All right, yeah, so we're just gonna put him back together. So I can see here's a section here for some reason I didn't paint, but I think when I did the repaint, it was all together. So his arm's going to be down, and I think that it's kind of weird having him point down. Couldn't I do it pointed up? I guess not. It's got a peg on it, so you can't turn him around unless you swap the arms out and switch them. But then both of his arms would be like screaming up in the air. So, all right. So let's put a little glue here. Let's put his arm back in. I just remember the old days of, the old Testors glue, that horrible smell. All right. That's going to be that. So his arm's going to be kind of down. So I've got two claws. This one's got a broken peg. So this one kind of matches the current one that's in there. So I think it's going to go like this. This is an easy refit. I just did a video of me working on my old Star Wars speeder bike from Return of the Jedi. I just did that as a kit, so this is not gonna sit. I'm gonna need to. All right, hold on. Get some activator for the CA glue. I can see that It's like the old glue in there is like reacting to this, I'm assuming. So we're going to put a little more glue here. And we'll hit the body with some of this activator. And that should bond them instantly. There we go. And the claw will do the same thing there. Put a little extra glue. Yeah, I'm not sure why they're not sticking. I'm assuming that the old tester's glue in there is probably reacting. All right. Okay. So there's that. Now he's got, maybe it's hard to tell, but he's got his little, there's a hole here, and oddly enough, after all these years, this little tiny piece, that's his battery or control pack, that anytime they want to deactivate the robot, they would pull this little battery pack, and I'm shocked and amazed that this little tiny piece is still has survived somehow. So I'm putting a little glue here, and we'll get a touch of activator. And stick that right in there. All right. Okay, there we go. Also, he's got these little spindles, these little ears, I guess. These little, in the show, there's one, they go up and they rotate around, and there's a red one and a yellow one. And the yellow one is missing, but that's an easy fix. I can take some, I've got a little piece of styrene, and I could cut out one. I was just gonna punch it out with a hole punch, but it's a little big. So I'm gonna have to like draw this and cut it out. That'll be like a final thing. All right, so then we got this third claw. We don't need that. Let's see about putting his dome back on. I don't think there's any orientation here. There's a crack in it, so let's move to the crack to the back. This activator with the CA glue, it's like a lifesaver. All right. I don't know if it's going to work. All right, it worked. I can see inside the dome. There's a little. I don't know if it's a spider, but it looks like there's a little piece of. It's probably dry, like glue string, from when it was glued together, and it's like right in front. Yeah, I can shake it loose. All right, it went away. All right, cool. All right, so there's his top half right there, and he'll go together really simply. Let's go ahead and glue. So we've got this piece of rocky terrain here, and I can see it's sort of like a gold plastic It's hard to tell. It's got this sort of metallic look here. But these are like two different colors of plastic. And the top is gold. I don't know. Yeah, makes no sense to me. So that's just going to glue right on top like that. That's an easy fix. So let's go ahead and let's put some glue here. You know, the more they think about it, that sort of the robot hunched over with his power pack off, you know, you can almost hear him going, oh. Will Robinson. All right, so let's go ahead, put that down. Yeah, I think I'm gonna hit the base with a little like light tan to just to lighten it up, because it's like a dark brown, and I can see the treads in there. I had done some black. These are the days where I was using charcoals and chalk pastels to get my weathering. So it looks to me like I did that and hit it with some matte finish. It's starting to come back to me now. All right, so that was quick. Let's go ahead. Let's do some paint job on this before we glue his head, his upper torso on there. He's gonna look pretty cool. So let me get some paint going. Let's do a little bit of this sort of terracotta, kind of a rusty color. Let's bring in my paint here. All right. Not going to need a lot, just a little bit. Let's get a piece of scratch paper. All right, a piece of scratch here, and let's get one of my dry brushes. This guy, and I'm just going to do a little highlights here and there. So just get a little paint. You want to wipe off most of that paint. Let's go around the back. Test it on the back just to see how it looks. Oh yeah, much better. So we'll throw a little bit of this terracotta on the rocks just to bring out the peaks, the high peaks. So it looks a little more natural. Again, and you know, it's one of these things where that brown in there gives us natural shadows. Also, it's one of those instances where you gotta be leery of when to quit. You can always put too much. So this is giving me some nice highlights on the rocks here. So just for anybody who's just joined in, I am doing a little repaint on a 1960s, 68 I believe was when this kit was released, from Aurora, the robot from Lost in Space. This originally, as memory is serving me, this was a kit that my dad had built originally when the model came out in the 60s. He built this. And at some point, I think it broke, and he gave it to me to repair. And while I repaired it, I repainted it. And I'm seeing some evidence of that repair and that paint job here. I can see looking inside, I can see the original color of the plastic is that sort of silvery gray molded plastic, and the side panels here on his treads, and oddly enough, I'm looking at this now, it's backwards. So I've got his rear facing forward and the forward facing to the rear. The reason that I know that is that there's a little trap door here, and if I'm right, the trap door is on the front, but you can't tell really because from all four sides, he, left and right look the same. But I'm pretty sure that when I put this back together, I put it together backwards. I don't know if it's worth popping loose. I'm looking inside to see. Oh, I see there's a lot of glue in there. I don't know if it's worth popping loose and spinning them around. All right, let's finish painting this base, and then we'll explore tearing it apart, ripping it apart. But anyway, I love these dry brush brushes. They're really nice in hitting all the high peaks and bringing out those shadows and that depth. All right. That's much nicer. Let's see who's in here. Hi, Lee. Oh, there's my buddy Gary Hughes. Anybody else is watching? Gary is a pretty good. He's a master builder as well. He's done some really nice kits. Put together some nice kits. All right, so I think that's good. I've lightened up this sort of dark. It was like a dark. It's probably hard to see on camera, but it was like a dark chocolate brown. So I'm debating if I want to pop him off his base. All right, so this is done. I'm going to go ahead and clean that brush. Let's see if I can pop him loose. Let me clean this brush real quick. All right. There you go, really nice. I bought a whole set of these, and they came in like, there's sort of a medium one, and I got a really big one. I think they came into like a pack of 3, but I like this medium one the best. All right, so let's see what it take to pop this loose. I see a lot of glue in there. I wonder if I need to take like a screwdriver. Flat. See if I can do this without breaking it. All right, it looks like I used some hot glue when I did this repair. I can see inside. Yeah, it's definitely hot glue, so it should technically just pop off pretty much. You can hear that creaking. All right, I may just decide to leave him. Then again, I never know. Yeah, I'm going to leave it and just chalk it up to putting them together backwards, which is fine. So, like I said, there's that little trap door, which I believe in the series is on the front. Because there's a episode where the robot gets enlarged, and Will and Dr. Smith climb in through the hatch and climb inside the robot. All right, again, happy with that. Let's see how he fits. Now there's some broken plastic here. Let's see if that's where I can fit him back together. There he goes. He popped right in. Oh, and his head came off. Perfect. The glue finally broke loose. That 50-year-old glue. All right, that's a good opportunity. I can clean that out. All right, not a bad thing. That's all right. And I think I'll leave him on the swivel. That way I can pose him on the shelf. So he's nice. He's got a weird sort of patina about him, and I think that was the metallic paint that I used back in the 80s to paint. It looks like, you know, after 40 years plus, it has decided to patina itself. So that's fine. All right, let's let's get his head back on. All right, what happened here? All right, I can see. All right, no problem. Let's go ahead and let's get a little more glue here. Be a little delicate. I don't want a lot of this glue to leach into the clear plastic. All right. Let's give it a little shot of activator. And let's get it pointed forward. I know it's kind of hard to see for you guys, but I want to get it centered here. All right, that's not going anywhere. There we go. All right, so there he is. So we've painted the base. We put his arm back on, put the claw back on, attached him to his torso and his legs, and we've reapplied the dome and his head. Now he's missing one of these, so he's got a red one on this side and there's a yellow one on this side. And I think I'm just going to make a little piece out of some styrene. And once again, there's that model. So I got a little piece of styrene here, and let's get a kind of a rough size. So there's some hole punches I did on a detail on another kit, just to get a reference. So I don't think it needs to be perfect. This already looks too big. Actually, that looks pretty good. All right, let's see if I can pop it out. There we go. It's so tiny. So tiny. Let's get a little piece of sandpaper here. Hey Lee, how are you, my friend? Sonar dishes, baby. All right, we'll give it a little sand to get some of those rough edges off. My hands are way too big for these small parts. Okay. All right, got a little rough edges. Let's take care of that with the blade. I want to thank you guys for popping in. I haven't done one of these lives in about 2 years, so always fun to see who shows up. All right. So there's this little tiny piece. Can we see that? Oh my God. Yep, we're all doing good here. I've been on a kick of building, doing a lot of building of old kits. Taking out some of the kits that I built 40 years ago and redoing those. Like I said, I just finished a Return of the Jedi snow speeder, and Actually, that video is now up on my YouTube channel, which is on, there's a link on my Facebook page here. Now that I look at it, that's not hot glue, it is silicone rubber. I can see it oozing out, which tells me that that is my dad's repair, because he was the king of silicone rubber. And he fixed everything with silicone rubber. When after he passed, my brothers and I were, mainly me, but my brothers and I were charged with clearing out his old comic book room, and everything was glued down on the shelves. All the feet of the action figures were glued down with silicone rubber. It's so funny. That makes me laugh. So I'm going to keep his feet backwards. All right, so I'm going to take this little, I put a little bit of glue on there, and let's get a little activator on this guy and see if we can't sit him somewhere like this. Now I probably should have painted this first, because it's going to be a bear to paint like that. But now he's up there. Let me see what's going on in the comments. No, I'm not painting it. This is the original paint job, or this is the second version of the paint job. To go back, my dad built this. This is an Aurora. It's got 1968 Aurora plastics. So this is an original Lost in Space kit that my dad built originally. And as memory serves, I think it fell off a shelf or something, and he had me rebuild it back in the 80s, early 80s. And I did a repaint on it and cleaned it up and fixed a few things. But it looks like it may have fallen off the base at some point, but there's that silicone rubber is holding the base down. So yeah, this is an original 68 Aurora Lost in Space kit, and yeah, was surprised that it was in as good condition. It's been in a storage bin box for maybe the last 35, 40 years. When I moved out of the house in the early 90s, I put everything in storage. So I'm just the little fins, those ears that in the original, they kind of spun around in opposite directions. One of them's red, one of them's yellow. So I'm just going to use one of these little acrylic Sharpie markers and just kind of delicately hit that yellow. But like I said, I've been doing a lot of rebuilds and refreshing old model kits and just having a blast doing it. The only downside to that is I don't have really the room to display. I've run out of really nice display space. All right, so I'm gonna take a little silver and let's see, make sure this works. Yeah, so I'm gonna just hit the rim edge of this yellow because there's silver on the red one. So I want to be extra careful. I don't want to break it off after just repairing it. All right, that looks like it worked. That's pretty cool looking at this after all these years. I'm gonna go, you know what I've been doing lately is signing things. Yeah, a little purple. Let's just sign the bottom. So it's got 68. So we're going to go ahead and we'll sign the bottom. 25 is when we fixed it. So we got a little CM25. All right. I don't think I could do any more damage to this. Something's rattling. Oh, we didn't glue his body, so his body still rotates. So we're going to keep that motion so when I find a place to put him on the shelf, I can pose him a little bit. I kind of like the fact that he's a little, he's patinaed himself, he's antiqued himself a little bit. Like I said, I think it's that whatever silver paint I used. It was a heavy metallic paint back in the 80s that I had. And he is, that paint, I can see all the brush strokes. He has patinaed himself, and I think that's kind of cool. All right, well, there you go. There is the rebuild on an original 1968 Aurora Lost in Space B9 model kit. And like I said, this was my dad's. He built it originally when it was released in the 60s, and I did a rebuild on it probably back in the early 80s. And now here we are, almost 50 years later, and he's got new life. He's going to go sit up on a shelf. All right, my friends. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this and listening to me gab. But I had a good time. Thanks for dropping in. I'll make it more of a regular habit to do some of these live videos. There we go. Lost in Space. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. Danger, danger. All right, guys. Thanks again for popping in. I'm going to go ahead and cut the feed on this. Once again, thanks everybody for dropping in and for this little repair of our Lost in Space robot. Thanks, guys.